Oh! I have no idea if this topic is going to be interesting for anyone. But today we are talking. Hello? But it is a very interesting topic to me and how my account got started. So sit down, grab some popcorn, and I am going to tell you about the history of boxes. Like most of my research and areas of interest, we are going to start in ancient times. Ancient Mesopotamia and Egypt, boxes started off being made out of wood and clay. This eventually evolved into more complex materials like limestone and alabaster. As these civilizations progress, we see limestone and alabaster being utilized more, especially in royal tombs, which are some of the most common examples we have since they are a bit more well preserved. An example of one of the most famous boxes of ancient Egypt are King Tut's canopic jars, which are made out of alabaster. These obviously were made to store the organs of King Tut and are some of the most valuable resources into techniques and materials used for box making. This seemed to hold a lot of religious implications, which seems to be a common trend in boxes in Egypt. We have found a box of shabti, which are these type of figures that are meant to serve you in the afterlife. It was believed these shabtis either held spirits or would come to life in some sort of way to serve the spirit of the dead. All these boxes obviously held items of great significance, all of which seemed to be tied into religion, which was a huge aspect to Egyptian culture. Ancient Mesopotamia, we have one of the most famous ancient artifacts, the Standard of Ur. The Standard of Ur is about 4,600 years old and show the alternate sides of war and peace. This box, while made out of wood, which is considered a simple material, also has this really beautiful complex inlay. And of course is one of the earliest examples of inlay. In addition, we see these beautifully detailed scenes, which gives us a lot of insight into societal structure of Ur, as well as the importance of the Sumerian king and how he wanted to be seen by his citizens. The Greeks were actually, at least according to the archaeological records, some of the first people to create coolers, a cider box. I hope I am pronouncing that correctly. It's during ancient Greece that we get more into boxes made out of precious metals. And of course in ancient cultures we have some tales of mythological boxes, such as Pandora's box, which held all of the world's miseries until Pandora opened it, or the Ark of the Covenant, which held the 10 Commandments given to Moses on a mountain. And in both of these tales, boxes are meant to shroud something in mystery and reverence. But it's safe to say that boxes were used to hold either sacred or personal or religiously important items. Now, during the Middle Ages, people got really creative with the use of boxes. As religion grew, so did the demand for reliquaries and other precious boxes for ceremonies. In Christianity, there's a very special link between life, death, and saints, and these reliquary boxes would hold relics from saints, which would be anything like blood or bone. Even though we think of this as the Dark Ages, craftsmanship was really coming into its own. We have thousands of examples of boxes that were made out of this time, whether it was puzzle boxes or boxes embedded in desks that were meant to hold secrets or just add a little bit of flair to everyday life. As far as medieval puzzle boxes, we have a box which required a series of intricate movements to unlock. We also have the famous medieval Chinese puzzle box, the Moorish puzzle box, which was influenced by Islamic design. Whether it's because there were more secrets to keep in this era, or there was just better craftsmanship, we see some writing desks with these secret compartments that are utilized. We also come up with snuff boxes, which were meant to hold little items, trinkets, or drugs. Snuff boxes at this time would hold anything from sentimental items to medication, and while they weren't exactly common, they weren't uncommon either. The time that the safe comes really into its own as a design. Safes at this time were used by both the merchant class and royal class to protect their wares and goods, and also were really coming into perfection with the lock. Honestly, I wish I had a medieval safe. They have a lot of hidden little pockets and secrets. And now we get into a bit more of the Georgian Victorian time, which is my bread and butter. Now, archaeological revival played a huge role in the Georgian and Victorian time. Prior to the 1700s, we didn't really have archaeologists but antiquaries. However, with the excavation of Stonehenge, archaeology became its own discipline. The excavations of Pompeii and Vesuvius quickly followed, which spurred an interest in classical antiquity, which then spurred Napoleon's campaign through Egypt and its archaeological revival upon style. One common practice that upon completion of your studies as a man, you would travel around Europe to become worldly and to experience these archaeological digs. And education of the classical world is considered a vital component of any young man's education. During this time that we get some of the first records of boxes being solely dedicated to jewelry, as well as, at least to our knowledge, some boxes meant for display. During this era, we have finely detailed leatherwork and penwork, which emphasizes the focus on detail. Formerly was a technique that, at least during the Georgian era, would mix mercury with gold and would heat it to a high temperature to burn away the mercury. Ormolu was used to accent just about everything, including boxes, but also furniture and walls. It was highly toxic. They absolutely knew it at the time. There are so many notes of ormolu workers having an average lifespan of 40 years, and actually added to the appeal of ormolu and this fine craftsmanship amongst the higher class. Ormolu is one of the greatest examples of high-class elegance, which led to the French Revolution, and of course not only defines the style of Marie Antoinette, but also other monarchs during the Georgian era. In the Georgian era, we have not only ormolu and glass, which was usually made out of baccarat crystal, but we also have leather jewelry boxes that were meant for travel or for display. We also see velvet as a very popular trend. Also, we see boxes being used for other items like gloves. Now, the importance of gloves is immense, especially during this time. It probably is a whole subject upon itself. But one would have gloves essentially at every stage of their life and multiple pairs for different events. It was even a common gift to give out gloves during a funeral. And a lot of times these gloves would be presented with a box. I also personally have come across beautiful velvet cutlery boxes, boxes meant to store your tea and coffeeware, presentation boxes for jewelry, truly a box for every occasion. Circa around 1870, there was an Egyptian revival or archaeological revival phase, which all of Europe was absolutely crazy about anything ancient. We would take a lot of these figures and form them in this new ormolu and would create boxes with these figures. As we see here, this box shows an allegory of Cupid and Aphrodite along with other gods and goddesses. I have many in my personal collection, and these required beautiful craftsmen to not only form the ormolu, but also to form the baccarat crystal that would surround the ormolu. We also have some really amazing Victorian boxes that started having these automations to them, like this mechanical music box that would have a bird singing, or even boxes that would have bugs flap their wings and make little chirping noises. During this time, as well as any time previous, it was immensely expensive and labor intensive to make a box for someone. They were typically only held by the rich, and if you had a box, it probably was made out of wood and was kind of just shabbily put together by yourself. But after the Industrial Revolution, the idea of having a box to store your own valuables grew, especially as jewelry became cheaper and the lower class was able to buy nice things, or at least nice things to imitate that of the rich. Especially from the Art Deco period on, the idea of everyone having a type of jewelry box or memento box grew. Boxes were beginning to be made out of cheaper materials, like this celluloid here, made to imitate ivory, but is actually a type of plastic. Mass production of jewelry boxes really shot up during the Hollywood Regency era. It's about this time that we have reached the organization peak of jewelry boxes, and we have this general mold to this day. Modern day, we do have some really beautiful, amazing examples made by artists, and one could use the power of the internet to order custom boxes. But most boxes, as I'm sure we can guess, are made mass-produced and usually out of cardboard or plastic, and the majority of which are for packaging. In recent years, it does seem like we are kind of damning this excess of boxes, especially with influencers who get these really beautiful PR boxes, which of course are works of art within themselves, but do bring up the issue of mass consumption. I personally have my own theory on this, that there might be something psychological about the idea of opening something or having something secret. Triggers this psychological phenomenon for us to emotionally invest into something maybe a little bit more. And it just makes us feel a little bit more special. But regardless of the reason, I really love boxes. I hope you enjoyed this video on the history of boxes. It by no means is comprehensive, just some of the highlights I really love. And I hope you stick around for some of my more finds. You can find me on TikTok and on Instagram at Glitter and Gold Finds. I hope you all have a good one. Bye.